Hey guys, it's Mad Friday and welcome back. Right, today we're going to be doing another tank review, and this time it is the turn of the FV4202. This is the tier 10 British medium tank. This follows on from the Centurion 7.1. I'm just going to show you the line quick. Where is it? There we go. Follows on from the Centurion 7.1. That is an excellent tank at tier 9 and one of my favourite tanks in the game, and that also follows on from the Centurion 1 and the Comet. So it's quite a fun line pretty much. Everyone knows the Cromwell. Cromwell's a lot of fun at tier 6. The Comet is a very good tank, however it's very hard to play and do well in. Good players can excel in this tank, but bad players tend to not do particularly good with it, because you need to maximise the horrendous gun depression it has, and that accentuates the turret armour it has, so he's basically finding the right spots in that tank. Centurion 1 has a strong turret and the 20 pounder, and that can do some serious work, but the hull's a little bit weak, and the speed limit is pretty crap, just like the rest of the line from here. Centurion 7.1 is the first tank to have the 105 on it in this line. That, in my opinion, is where this tank gets great, and from here we go on to the FV4202. The reason I'm doing this tank today is because of what's been released lately on the PC version, the Action 10 Centurion. To be honest, I'm not really looking forward to it. The things I like about this tank are going to move, are going to disappear when the Action 10 comes out. But the other reason I wanted to talk about this, in the past certain things have happened and it might benefit you. If you didn't know, the T-34 used to be the tier 9 American heavy and the T-30 was the tier 10. So if you had the T-34 and the T-30, when they brought out the T-110E5, the T-34 went to a tier 8 premium and you would have had that in your garage. The T-30 went to the tier 9 tank destroyer and you would have also had that in your garage, even if you hadn't completed any of the line before, and also you would have had the T-110E5 in your garage as well. So from 2 tanks you went to 3, one of them being a tier 8 premium. So if the Action 10 comes in, it's going to replace this, and the 4202 is apparently going to be a tier 8 premium, so there's a very small chance that if you already have the 4202, when the Action 10 comes in, you might have the Action 10 in your garage and also a tier 8 premium FV4202. It's only a small chance, but it's always worth thinking about, because that could be a free tier 8 medium for you guys. Right, anyway, let's talk about about this tank. It has some really good things and some really bad things, and we'll go into the stats and we'll have a little talk about it. Right, so quick look at the armour. I'm going to go into tanks.gg to look at it a bit more in depth. The front plate is 121mm, that's fairly good. Front of the turret is 196mm, that is pretty good, however there's some bad points on the turret we're going to talk about using the armour viewer. Sides of the turret 196, that's pretty good. The rear of the turret is 35 and the rear of the chassis is 32, so HE shots through there all day long. The side of the hull is only 51mm, but it does have some spaced armour, and the tracks also count as spaced armour. So you're more than likely going to soak up some heat shells with the sides, but not AP rounds, so you need to be a bit conscious of what type of rounds your enemies are firing at you. Right, hit points 1950, fairly standard for a tier 10 medium. The speed limit is just one of the drawbacks with this tank, and one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like it is only 40 kilometers an hour, but it has an 810 horsepower engine, so it will get to 40 really quickly and maintain it even up some shallow slopes, and steeper slopes it will still do well over 30. The next 2 stats is one of my real reasons that I don't get on with this tank as well as some others. The chassis rotation is greater than the turret rotation. So if you're trying to engage at a target and you're trying to aim at them, obviously with your right stick with your turret, if you use too much left stick with your chassis rotation, you can pull the turret off the target, and it does become very frustrating. When the chassis rotation is more than the turret rotation, it really does, yeah, you've got to be careful with your sticks and your aim. So that's just one thing to be careful about. Rate of fire is pretty good at 6.98 rounds a minute for a 105, that's not bad at all. And this DPM on this is kind of in the middle from all the tier 10 mediums. View range is excellent at 410, and you can see from my equipment there, I have not got any optics on this thing, but we'll talk about that some more in a minute. And the camo value says average, but this thing, it does hold up well. The camo value does hold up well, especially if you fit some paint on it as well, and some crease gills. It's one of the more sneaky tier 10 mediums. It's a very, very low profile. Yeah. Right, so let's have a quick look at the packages to talk about the gun. Obviously I said rate of fire is 6.98 rounds per minute. Penetration with the standard APCR rounds is 268mm with 390 alpha damage. That is excellent. The premium rounds on this tank differ from a lot of the other tier 10 mediums. It doesn't have a higher penetration, different round type like heat or something. It has HESH rounds for its premium ammunition. And this is my main reason for liking this tank, and one of the only reasons I would play this tank over the other ones. As you see, it's a high explosive round, but it has 210mm of penetration and 480 alpha damage. In my opinion, that is very, very useful. For light tanks, getting the sides and rears of other tanks, your DPM is insane if you can get your HESH rounds to your pen, but that is the key there when I said getting them to pen. 210mm is a lot, but obviously a HE round will be exploded by tracks and stuff like that, and it will explode outside the tank and only do splash. So it all comes down to your own aim, whether you have good enough aim to guarantee the higher alpha damage. But like I said, that is my main reason why I like to play this tank. The HESH rounds give you just it's just another sort of level of play that you can just increase your DPM. It's quite hard to explain. Also, the standard HE on this tank is also cheap HESH, and that has more than enough penetration for light tanks, which is 105mm average and also 480 alpha damage. So of those two options there is one of my reasons I really, really like this tank over some of the other ones. Also, the next two stats, aim time at 2.09, that is pretty damn good, and the accuracy 0.31. It's like a freaking laser beam, this thing. Where you point it, they will go. And the APCR rounds, the muzzle velocity is so high as well. Aiming with this tank, it is pretty good. If you play this tank regularly, sort of match after match, you get so used to it. When you've played another tank and you come back to it, you end up aiming off far too far, and your rounds just whiz in front of the tanks, and you then have to recorrect for this amazing accuracy and muzzle velocity. It's brilliant. What else is there? We talked about the track traverse and the turret traverse, which I did not like. I hate it when the track traverse is more than the turret traverse. But also signal range is good at 750m. Right, so that's enough for that stuff. I'll just show you my equipment and supplies I chuck on there. So my equipment, fairly standard for a tier 10 medium with good view range. Medium caliber tank rammer, ventilation and vert stab Mark II. Yeah, I didn't go for any optics on this thing. It's got 410 base, so with ventilation, let's see what else I got on there. With ventilation, situational awareness and recon, that's an extra 10%, so that's another 41 meters, so that's 451 meters. Broths and arms is another 5%. So that's, what's that, 20.5 meters, so what are we at, 471.5 meters, so you're not far off the maximum view range anyway. And also Brothers in Arms gives you 5% extra on all of these, so 5% of 5% is, don't know, can't work it out in my head, but it's not much, but it still adds an extra couple of meters on with these two, so you're not far off the 500 meters there anyway. So absolutely no point to run any optics on this unless you are really interested in picking up lots of assist points through spotting. As you see there, one other crew skill I've gone for, which I don't normally do on these sort of tanks, is camouflage. Like I said, it does have pretty good camo value. Camouflage gives you an extra 100%, and if this tank is a bit more of a sniper rather than the brawler like the Russian mediums, so if you can add 100% to your camo value, I think that's pretty damn impressive for this tank, especially if you do like sniping. This tank can brawl, it's got the track traverse to get round tanks, but it doesn't have the strong turret really like the Russian mediums to be able to pull it off. And the rest of my crew skills there are all just fairly standard, and I'm training Snapshot as my last one. Right, so there we go, it's a quick look at all that. Supplies. Got plenty of APCR, it has excellent penetration, so you need a big stock of those. I've got 10 HESH and 10 HE. Like I said, this was one of my main reasons for playing this tank. These high pen HE rounds and fairly high pen standard HE rounds, you can do a lot of serious work with those, and I will show you some examples of that in some video in a minute. Yeah, so this option here, the HESH, that is what sets this tank apart. So when the Action 10 Centurion comes in, that's going to go in place of heat. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to be overly impressed with the Action 10. I'd rather keep this, to be honest. Right, so there we go. Quick look at the tank. We're going to go over to tanks.gg now to have a little bit look into the armor profile and see the plus points and the negative points. Right, here we go guys, we're in tanks.gg, a very helpful website to help you guys out if you want to have a look at it yourself. It's a free to use website and I highly recommend it. Right, straight onto the turret. The best part about this turret is this nicely angled plate here. It's 125mm thick, but it's very, very nicely sloped backwards, and it brings up some impressive numbers even without using the gun depression of this tank. Right, so size of the turret 120, but the angling's not as good, and the further forward you come to the beak, the numbers get smaller. This horrendous turret ring is 196mm thick, but there's no vertical angling whatsoever. So at the front here, there is 0 angling total, so it's still only 196mm thick. So pretty much every tank this thing can meet can penetrate through there. Obviously, as it goes out, the numbers increase, so you want to be aiming here really. And also, the beak, the whole of this beak area is weak, and if you aim for here, you're probably going to damage the gun and probably take the gunner out as well. So you want to be a bit careful with that if you're driving this thing. The top of the turret is only 25mm and 45mm, so that is going to get overmatched. So you need to be a little bit careful there. Again, use your gun depression to hide that part, and then it won't get overmatched. Right, set this back up again. The cupola is quite nasty. It's 196mm thick, but it's quite tall, so all round here is going to be a nice place to aim. Right, on to one of the best bits of this tank, the front plate. It's only 121mm thick, but it's very well angled, and you will pull off some nice bounces off of this plate, especially if you're slightly angled. I don't recommend over angling this thing because the side armor is not great. But if you angle a little bit, you can see numbers up to well over 300mm there. So that is enough to bounce other tier 10 mediums that aren't using premium rounds. Again, there's another green bit here. This is only 30mm thick, so I think that bit there is too, yeah. So any tank with a 90mm gun or more can totally overmatch that, so they can fire at that piece at any angle and it will go in. So you need to be really careful about that as well. The beak of the tank is 196mm, but it's not angled at all, so it still comes up as, well, if I had the tank straight it would come up as 196mm. Oh, it's 197, sorry, that's my bad. So that will be a penetrating shot through there, and the lower plate is 76mm, and it's not particularly well angled, so that's going to be penetrating shots there, even when over angled, see? Right, so there we go, that's pretty much the front of the tanks talked about. Let's talk about the side. Right, so the side of the turret, this whole patch here is going to get penned by tier 8s and above. The back of the turret has a bit more angle in here, so that you might get a lucky ricochet off there, but it might end up ricocheting off and going into that bit there, but then that's 400mm effective there. The back of the engine casing here is visible. So if you're loading up a HE round or a HESH round or another high pen HE round like a HEP round, don't aim for any of this. Aim for this big block of engine decking here. It's only 51mm thick. And if you go through there, more than likely you're going to set the engine on fire as well. Right, so I talked about the space armor earlier. Here it is, 6mm thick, but with the 6mm of space armor, 25mm of tracks, and 51mm of side armor, this will soak up most heat rounds, all bar the highest of penetrating heat rounds. That will soak them up. But AP and APCR is going to fly straight through there, no problem. Back of the tank is quite weak. 32 there, 35 there, and see 13 on the top. HE rounds all day long through there, from artillery especially. If you get hit by artillery there, they're going to wreck you, possibly one-shotting you depending on what tank it is. Back of the turret does have a little bit more angling on here, but still the numbers don't get very big until you get to that part there. And that's basically it. Right, let's have a look at the turret whilst using gun depression. So if that's 0, we'll try and guess 10 degrees. If you can get maybe there with your sort of turret just poking over a ridge line or anything else that you can use, then this part of the turret here becomes very, very thick, and still these are quite weak. But if you're just poking over the ridge line to there, there's a very good chance the shot is going to bounce off the top of your turret, and you want to hope they still don't hit the beak, because that's still weak. So that is your one chance of using this gun depression and trying to pull off some bounces off your turret. Right, so there we go. It's not particularly strong. It's quite a well all-rounded tank, but it doesn't have the turret of the tier 10 Russian mediums, but it does have a very good gun, very good mobility, and it's quite a fun tank to play, especially with the HESH rounds, which we spoke about earlier. Right, so what I'm going to show you now is the gun depression. That's 10 degrees for probably 2/3 of the gun traverse. That's 10 degrees all the way around to there, and all the way around to there, and then it does drop sharply to 0 over the back. So if you're in a Russian medium and you get behind this thing, the only thing the 4202 is going to be able to aim at is your turret. But he does have 50 degrees of track traverse to try and turn his hull round. Yeah, and it also adds 20 degrees of elevation all the way around, which is nice. That does help you to pick up targets who are a lot higher than you. Well, so there we go, guys. Had a quick look at the armour, had a quick look at the gun depression. Time to have a little bit of gameplay showing you the benefits of the HESH rounds, and then a full game afterwards. Here we go with a bit of HESH action in the FV4202. So from the team list at the start, I noticed there is a lot of enemy light tanks. So, cleared the barrels of that round, missed by miles. Give it another go and we hit in there. So we did about 300 odd damage there. So I've switched to HESH now. Maybe I should have done that before, maybe not.
Focus on this location.
So I'm just having a poke around, waiting for the next light tank to get spotted. I choose to use the expensive HESH for this because I like to guarantee a penetration. Right, here we go. Brazil's been tracked. We hit him for 470 damage there. Can't do that with the APCR, standard ammunition. Here we go, snapshot, nearly 500 again. So in 2 shots, I've done pretty much 1,000 damage there. WZ, if I'd have used the cheap HESH, although the penetration is pretty good, if I hit his turret, it's quite well angled, it may not have penetrated. You can see from his health bar there, with 1 shot, we pretty much took off half of his health. And this Brazil is about to get good news as well. Over 500 damage in 1 shot. So in 3 shots there, the third of the 4 3 shots, we did 1,500 damage pretty much in 3 shots, and that's why the HESH, I love it. It's just the main reason I like to play this tank, and you can do that to the sides and rears of tank as well. Well, so here we go, Prokhorovka encounter. There's quite a lot of tier 10s in this game. I'd say 3/4 of each team are tier 10s, so the HESH is slightly less valuable in this sort of game, but you can still do some work with it. But in this game it doesn't quite work out for me using the HESH. This is why I'm going to show it. You have to be so careful with your aim against sort of tier 9s, tier 10s. You have to hit them through the tracks or on their engine deckings or on the weak spots for it to work. Right, so I'm going for the hill. If there wasn't so many tier 10s, I'd go up the middle. They have quite a few Object 140s. Trying to go toe to toe with an Object 140 in this is not a good idea. You will bounce off his turret and he probably won't bounce off yours. So I'm going to go and snipe for a little bit. Like I was saying earlier though, the 4202 it can brawl, but it's more of a support tank really. Right, so on this map, when you're pushing the middle of the map like the enemies are there, this is the reason why you need people to push the hill. You need to get the guys sniping, spotted, so the guys in the middle can get some return firing.
I see one of them.
Right, so I lit up some targets there. We do have a rather nasty artillery platooned up with me. Conspiracy is in his new T92, the Hand of God. It will come in handy in a minute. Right, so we spot on Object 140. Like I said, I'm not going to bounce rounds off his turrets, but what I can do is just keep him spotted. I didn't get the spotting points to that one, but Conspiracy nailed somebody really hard there for the first kill.
Target locked.
So I'm just hanging back. I'm not interested in pushing into the cap. If I push into the cap or near the cap, I'm just going to get wiped out basically. There's far too many enemies left at the minute, so it's best just to hang back and snipe and try and get some shots in where I can. Well, it's not working against that IS-7. Either every round's missed or it's bounced so far. So I track him, I tell Conspiracy he's tracked. Track him again, waiting for a shot to come in. I get spotted. Time to pull back. Right, so there's that Object 140. Request fire on him.
Locked and loaded.
They go blind, so I need to respot for my big artillery.
Been detected.
Here we go. Boom. Conspiracy in the T92 shaves off over half of his hit points with one shot there.
Focus attention here.
Also, I notice I'm still detected, so I wonder if their artillery is aiming at me, so I pulled right back, lose my spot, and I'm going to go back in.
Ready to fire. Enemy armor is damaged.
Enemy's AMX 5120 is going full YOLO. Hit him, set him on fire. Right, now I could have used HESH in this situation.
We hit them hard.
Could have killed him a lot quicker.
Ready to fire.
Objects rushing me. I went up, poking through his front plate. That was quite lucky actually. There's a good chance of bouncing off his front plate there.
Enemy vehicle
We confirmed 2 quick kills.
ready to fire.
Unfortunately, when that object YOLO'd, he spotted Conspiracy, who was back there, and the enemy's artillery finished him off.
Enemies looking
But he's already done a fair amount of damage and given me some nice juicy assist points. Right, so now it's getting a bit more serious. That is a Death Star. I only
on target.
crit his tracks with my first shot.
Nice shot.
Right, so they're pushing round, so my only way out is up.
Ready to fire.
Oh, that's not what I wanted to see. Back chat. I'm pretty much on my own on this flank.
Ready to fire on target.
Oh, only get a crit on his tracks with that shot. This could be the end of it.
Not very well.
Just needs one more. Can I survive? Yes, I survive, but the back chat takes probably 2/3 of my health there.
They're hit.
Right, now a target I can use my gun depression and my turret against, unless he gets lucky and hits my hand. We finish off that IS-3. Happy days. Right, so now I need to find a position to get some shots on those guys to the left.
Enemies got us in their sights.
Death Star's looking at me, so I back off for a second. And they still have 2 artilleries in play.
Ready to
You need to
fire.
be a bit careful.
That's gotta hurt.
Track the Death Star. Get the tracking points I could have ideally done with the damage there. But let me kill the Death Star.
Target locked. We got him.
Artillery's about to die, but I could only get time for 1 shot there, and he's gone out of my view.
Ready to fire. We've been detected. Focus on this location.
But you can see there, I've got no optics fitted on this tank, but I'm still picking up plenty of assist points.
Ready to fire.
Like I said,
on target.
410 base with all your crew skills and ventilation is more than enough in this tank, in my opinion.
The enemy knows our location. Target acquired.
So 268's running. I notice I can see his engine deck, so I switched to HESH.
Ready to fire.
Aim up for his engine deck and it doesn't pen. That's what I mean with the HESH rounds. They can be brilliant, but you need to be so on the ball with your aim. It's just ridiculous. 268's down. I'm 1 off a Top Gun, so I'd really like it here. The enemy's artillery gets spotted, and this is a mistake. What I do now. In my head I was thinking, right, I haven't got time to change ammunition type, because in case he pops out I need to take the kill. But there he goes, I hit him with APCR and I just missed the kill shot. If I'd have fired HESH then, I had the side of that artillery, I would have one-shotted him and I would have gotten the Top Gun. And as it stands, I just missed out on the Top Gun. But an okay game there. He showed the sort of survivability of this tank. If you get rushed by something like a Batchat, there's not a huge amount you can do about it. But overall, quite a good game, good bit of spotting for our artillery, and we picked up 5,264 damage and 2,561 assist points, most of which were from Conspiracy in the T92. See, not a huge amount blocked either there. It's not really the tank for pulling off massive damage block figures. It's more about being sneaky, sniping, picking in on the odd tank that's on its own and getting around them, that sort of thing. Anyway, there we go. I hope this review has given you a good insight into this tank if you don't have it already. It's a really good tank. It's not much of a progression from the Centurion 7.1, but you can do some serious work with it, and the HESH rounds just give it that extra little edge that some of the other tanks don't have. Right, there we go guys, hope you enjoyed the review. Please give it a like if you did, please sub if you're not, and I will catch you on the next one. See you later.